Hi, this is Bill from Hirogari. Thanks for watching. Today I'm here in the Hirogari studio in my music room and I'm going to be doing a bit of a spring clean and a bit of an update. Over the last couple of months as I've been working, I've been paying careful attention to what's been taking up most of my time in the workflow, and that has been plugging in and unplugging things. So I'm going to add an extra 8 channels to my sound card, as well as a patchbay management system so that I don't have to worry about reaching around the back to unplug and plug things in all the time. One of the other things that I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this keyboard stand here, which is an X-type stand, with a bench type. I can't get my legs underneath it, which means that I end up playing the keyboard like this, hunching over a little bit to get my foot under the pedal. And it also means that my keyboard and mouse and other things, they're actually a lot further away. So I spend a lot of time hunched over, which is not really good for my back and for my shoulders, being a tall kind of fella. Hopefully end up with an area that's much more conducive to working more quickly. So I can get the inspiration when it strikes, but also can work for longer periods of time without having neck, shoulder, and back pain. So let's get to it. So what I've got in here is a PreSonus 1818 VSL, and then underneath it I've got my eMagic vintage eMagic AMT8 that I picked up secondhand in Japan for like 30 bucks Australian, something like that, ridiculous. This is going to be the audio interface rack. I'm going to drop this down half a unit because it tends to heat up, and then I'm going to put the new interface in. So this rack uses cage nuts and bolts that go in with a little rubber washer. I like to put them in horizontally because the clips are not designed to take any of the actual weight. This particular cage nut has actually sheared right off. If you look sideways, you can see that's the little bit that should be there at the top. It was installed in this configuration, and so basically as it was being loosened, all of the weight fell on one point and then sheared straight off. Luckily, these things are super cheap and you can get a bag for like no money. Alright, so this rack has been reconfigured now. It's got some space in it ready for its new audio interface, so let's pull that out. And this is what we're going with, a Behringer ADA 8200. Now, say what you want about Behringer, and back in the 99, 2000, 2001 days, you certainly could say whatever you want. Nowadays, the companies that they've been buying and the technology of those companies that's been trickling down into the Behringer product range, I'm not endorsed by these guys, but I mean, bang for buck. It's got Midas preamps in it, and it's got Cirrus Logic converters, does 48K, 24-bit, which is basically all that I need it to do. When it's living in my rack here, interfacing a whole bunch of keyboards into Logic, for most of the gear that I've got, this is perfectly adequate. And hey, on a teacher's salary, it's not like I can afford, you know, hundreds and hundreds of channels of Apogee. It certainly is snazzy looking. Rarefied factory air. I do just have to point this thing here out. I love it. I'm so sick of having multiple wall warts and power adapters and things hanging out the back of my racks. IEC internal power supply, fantastic. Okay, there we go. This rack is done and ready to be wired up for power and everything else, but we'll leave that till the cabling section. Let's get started on the next rack. I am going to be installing 2 patch bays. The first of these I paid $15 for at the shop in Japan called Hirogarimusic, just up the road from the famous Scramble Crossing in Shibuya. And this is a PX 2000 patch bay, again by Behringer. As you can see, it's a little bit the worse for wear, just a little bit of dirty and tape marks and things on it. I'm going to get to work with some of that orange oil goo remover that I used to clean a mixer a couple of episodes ago, and that will make this nice and shiny and ready to go into the new patch rack. Makeup removal pads from the beauty section at the $2 shop. The orange power like goo remover, and there's lots of different brands for it. I really love it. You just got to be careful with some gear as it will strip off the silk screen, but it will also strip off tape and sticky and all other kinds of marks and things that are on as well. Here's a little bit of before and here is some after. Now, the last thing you need to do after you've done something with orange oil is you really need to get all of that orange oil residue off for a couple of reasons. First of all, it does smell a bit, which is why I have the windows open in the background. Also, because it is an oil, things won't stick to it, and I intend to relabel this patch bay up with some adhesives, so I need to get that off, and the simple thing to do with that is just to use a bit of methylated spirits. So I have a new rack here. This is a 4-unit effects rack. Same exactly as the other one, although I bought a couple of years apart, which is what's great about buying from established manufacturers. This is from an Australian company based in north side of Brisbane. They were originally Blue Cat cases and now they're at cases.com.au, but what's really good is that recently they started shipping Australia-wide, basically all over mainland Australia, for free. The old case, and perfectly matched like a pair of brothers or sisters, siblings. As for the new patch bay, it's going in one of these, which is a Behringer Ultra Patch Pro PX3000. Again, bang for buck. This one is balanced, however, so it's going to be kind of the top patch bay, and then the PX2000 is going to be the second patch bay. So on this patch bay, there's settings for normal, through, and half normal, and basically they govern how the back panel connects to the front panel. The convention for patch bays is usually top out, bottom in. So if you have this set to normal, whatever is sent into the top row will automatically come out the bottom row on that channel. So that's really helpful because you might be working in a studio where you have preamps coming out of the top, and then you have inputs into the mixer or the audio interface in the bottom, and you don't need to actually plug a cable because it will work automatically. What happens with a normal connection is when you plug something in, it breaks that connection. So for example, if you had the preamp and then the input and the audio interface, but let's say that you wanted to go from the preamp into a compressor, then out of that compressor into the audio interface, you could do that with 2 patch cables. Otherwise, you don't need any cables. Half normal, which is the second most commonly used kind of thing, is that if you plug this in here, it doesn't break the connection to the bottom, and that's really useful for splitting a connection off to, say, a side chain or an effects send or something like that. Finally, there's through. Sometimes they call this link mode on some brands of patch bay, and that means that none of these things are connected whatsoever. So there's no internal connection. You must use a cable between them. So before I install these, you can imagine that when I put this into the rack, I'm not going to be able to access these switches. So, as they say, prior planning prevents poor performance. So I have worked out where I want everything to be in these patch bays. So I'm going to set the positions of these, and then I'm going to install them into the rack. Okay. So my intention is to put my 2 cases with audio interfaces and patch bay underneath the desk. So I've got it on just a little trolley, so it's out of the way, but it's there if I need access to it. But when you want to patch things in and out, you want to be able to slide it. So I've made this little dolly here. It's got brake wheels on the back and just regular straight wheels on the front. It's just out of a bit of plywood that I've spray painted, and that is exactly sized up to fit these flight cases. And yes, I did measure to make sure that it would fit under the desk. Pretty sure I did that. Now comes the fun bit where I get to crawl around on the ground. And that's it. It's taken a couple of hours, but now I've got my new keyboard stand, I've got my new audio interface, I've rearranged the ergonomics of the computer and everything, and it just feels a whole lot better in the little play that I've just had with it. Plus I've also got a little bit more color. Thanks so much for watching. If you've got any comments or any feedback or suggestions on how you would have done things differently, please put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of the videos that I make. Hit the little bell button so you get notified when I put anything new up, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.